Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Seattle Seahawks at the Baltimore Ravens in their Week 14 matchup played December 13, 2015. We're going to go over the scores and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. So starting off in the first quarter, with about 5 minutes still left in the first, Russell Wilson hit Tyler Lockett, the rookie, for an 8-yard touchdown. Stephen Hauschka added the extra point, and it was 7-0 Seahawks over the Ravens. So that would be the only score in the first quarter. But in the first quarter, the Seahawks lost Thomas Rawls for the season. He broke his ankle, and so he's done for the year. And he'll be placed on the IR to open up space for another running back. Of course, the Seahawks are still holding out hopes that Marshawn Lynch will return. But so now in the second quarter, about a minute and a half in, Justin Tucker would put the first points on the scoreboard for the Ravens with a 28-yard field goal, and it was 7-3. But then with less than a minute left before halftime, Russell Wilson hooked up with Doug Baldwin for a 14-yard touchdown. Hauschka had the extra point, and it was 14-3. But the Ravens, with only about a half a minute left, would end up with a 30-yard field goal before halftime to make it an 8-point game as Justin Tucker put it through the uprights, and it was 14-6 at the half. So it was a close game at halftime, although it had been pretty much all Seattle. But in the third quarter and in the second half, the Seahawks would just run away with this one, scoring 21 unanswered points to finish off this game. They scored a touchdown with about 9 minutes left in the third. Russell Wilson hooked up with Doug Baldwin for a 22-yard touchdown, their second touchdown connection of the game. Russell Wilson's third touchdown pass of the game. Hauschka added the extra point, and it was 21-6 Seattle over Baltimore. Then in the fourth, just moments into the fourth, Russell Wilson connected with Tyler Lockett for the second time for a touchdown. This one a 49-yard touchdown. Stephen Hauschka added the extra point, and it was 28-6 Seahawks over the Ravens. Then with about 9 minutes still left to play, Russell Wilson threw his fifth touchdown pass of the game, his third to Doug Baldwin, this one for 16 yards. Hauschka added the extra point, and it was 35-6. So Russell Wilson coming up big time in this game. 5 touchdown passes. The second time he's thrown for 5 touchdown passes this year, as he actually did that against the Steelers, and that set a career high. So now he ties a career high, and he has 16 touchdowns in the last 4 games. And he's been connecting with Doug Baldwin. Those two have 8 touchdowns just in the last 3 between the two. Because he had 3 this week, 2 last week, and 3 the week before. So Doug Baldwin has been tearing it up, as well as Russell Wilson. Also, the defense coming up huge in this game, as they only allowed 6 points, the 2 field goals, no touchdowns. Of course, the Ravens are banged up. They had Jimmy Clausen under center, so they're on their third quarterback there. But the Seahawks 8-5 now on the season, 4-3 on the road as they go above 500 on the road. The Ravens 4-9 on the year now, 2-4 at home. The Ravens' season's pretty much done, as it was already pretty much done, but this mathematically eliminates them. The Seahawks, though, have not quite secured a playoff spot, but they've all but secured a playoff spot, as they're 2 games ahead of the next wildcard team, and that's with 3 games left to play. So with a win next week, I believe they would secure the spot. Of course, the Falcons and the Buccaneers both losing today, and that makes the difference of the Seahawks being 8-5 and those 2 teams being 6-7, as they're the next on the list there in the wild card race. And the Seahawks still have an outside chance of catching the Cardinals, although they're 3 games back with 3 games left to play. But technically speaking, if they won out and the Cardinals lose out, then the Seahawks still mathematically could actually take the division, although it looks like they're going to end up with a wild card spot. And this victory right here, although it's against a banged up Ravens team, still a big victory on the road and a big performance. It's making kind of a statement here in this game. the way that their offense is just rolling. Their defense is playing phenomenal football. And in this game, Russell Wilson, 23 for 32, 292 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. And then on the ground, Rawls in the first quarter, before breaking his ankle, had 6 carries for 44 yards. Then Harris came in. He had 18 carries for 42 yards in this game. Not nearly as productive. But Tyler Lockett had a huge game. 6 receptions for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. Doug Baldwin, 6 receptions for 82 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Jermaine Kearse, 7 receptions for 74 yards. And for the Ravens, Jimmy Clausen, 23 for 40, 274 passing yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. And Terrence West, 5 carries for 16 yards, was leading rusher for the Ravens. Javarius Allen had 8 carries for 14 yards in the game. He also had 5 catches for 44 yards, which gave him a total of 58 yards in this game for Allen. Kamar Aiken had 5 receptions for 90 yards, and Butler had 7 receptions for 72 yards. When you look at the kickers in this game, Stephen Hauschka, 5 for 5 on the extra points, did not attempt a field goal. Justin Tucker, 2 for 2 on the field goals, did not attempt an extra point. And for the defense for the Seahawks, Michael Bennett had a sack, Richard Sherman had an interception, and Frank Clark forced a fumble. And for the Ravens on defense, Upshaw had a forced fumble, Courtney Upshaw. So when we look at the team stats, 28 first downs for the Seahawks, just 16 first downs for the Ravens. On third down, the Seahawks, 8 for 12, 66% conversion rate for Seattle. For Baltimore, 3 for 11, just 27% on third down. They went for it once on fourth, did not convert. Total net yards, 424 for Seattle, 302 for Baltimore. On the ground, the Seahawks netted 123 yards, and just 28 yards netted for the Ravens, as the Seahawks had almost 100 more yards netted on the ground, although they only had 3.4 yards per carry, per rushing play, rather, but only allowed 2 yards per rushing play from the Ravens. Then we look at the net passing yards, 301 for the Seahawks. Russell Wilson was not sacked at all in this game. And for the Ravens, 274 netted through the air. Clausen sacked once for a loss of 0. And we look at the penalties in this game. The penalties really hurting the Ravens. 9 penalties for 94 yards. 6 penalties against the Seahawks for 42 yards. Both teams had a fumble in this game. 1 apiece, and they lost it. Each team lost their fumble. Then we look at the red zone. 4 for 5 for Seattle, 80%. And for the Ravens, 0 for 3, 0% in the red zone. Time of possession, 35 minutes, 43 seconds for the Seahawks, 24 minutes, 17 seconds for the Ravens. So the Seahawks just dominating in all categories, and they producing in the red zone, getting the ball into the end zone, and they were shutting down the Ravens whenever they got into the end zone. They did allow the 3 trips, but they did not allow any touchdowns. They had the ball for the most part in this game. Even though they weren't getting a lot of production off of their ground game, they still kept, pounding the rock. And Russell Wilson was just on fire in this game, lighting up the Ravens. I said a big win for Seattle. It's kind of a statement game. Even though the Ravens, I said they're obviously well below 500. They're not in the hunt at all. But still, to go on the road and beat a team is always a good thing, and you need to get those road victories. You're usually going to get your home victories, but you need to get those road victories if you want to make it into the playoffs. And so these are the kind of games that you have to win, and to be able to win it in such a decisive fashion is very impressive, and it's also good going towards the postseason. Now here we are in December, almost midway through December, just 3 games left. This is the kind of performances you want to see out of your team as you're heading down the stretch towards the playoffs. So big win for the Seahawks. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend and enjoyed all the sports.